morning. I swear a lot.
It is 20 to 3 in the PM, and you're listening to The Foreman. I'm your host, Foreman, and it's been a while since we've done one of these, hasn't it? I think people, and I think myself included, kind of expected Foreman's Mech Locker to become the new home of Foreman Talks, because I just do it while I was making mechs, but to be honest, that format isn't very well suited to long-form topic discussion, as it were, or, I don't know, there's distractions involved as well while I'm making a mech. I didn't consider it a suitable place to, actually talk about stuff that I wanted to talk about. Answering questions? Sure, because you can kind of affect the length of an answer, but when it comes to actually discussing a topic, you could very easily not get to say what you want to say, and it's like, well, the mech's finished now. If I continue talking, we're literally just staring at a completed mech while nothing else is going on, right? So, yeah, but today's is a weird one. I'm sure you saw the title and was like, that's a strange choice. Today, I wanted to talk about Cringe. I don't know why, but this literally flashed into my head 10 minutes before I sat down to do this, and I was like, yeah, no, fuck it. Let's do a Foreman Talks and let's talk about Cringe. Cringe is strange. First of all, obviously, it's as a term, it's existed, and as for what the term describes in the modern day, in the modern online lexicon, it has existed throughout humanity, but I don't feel like it's ever been so prevalent as it is now. You see someone do something like they think is cool and is clearly not cool, and you go, that's cringe. Or you see something you don't like and you go, that's cringe. That's another thing where the term tends to have a different meaning depending on who's saying it, but the reason I kind of thought about this and wanted to bring it up and wanted to talk about it is because over the past few days, I've been listening to a lot of Linkin Park. Now, Linkin Park has a weird relationship with cringe, right? Because way back in the day, we're talking maybe 10 years ago or so, not only was it was pretty hype, and then a couple years later it became kind of cringe. I think probably due to its use in videos where it would be the backing track to Dragon Ball Z footage, and we have to admit that that was kind of cringe. Since, and it's a dour topic, but this does feel like it is the case, since the unfortunate passing of Chester Bennington, Linkin Park became not cringe, because the internet judges things in strange ways. Now, I've always liked Linkin Park. I'm not sitting here to try and be on that bandwagon, I'm just saying I have always listened to them, because they make good songs, right? I don't even know why people didn't like Hybrid Theory. That album's really good. I listened to Hit the Floor recently, and I was like, this fucking slaps. So good. But I'm getting off topic, right? Linkin Park is not what spurred me to do this, because I don't consider them to be that cringe, if at all, really. I consider them to be more of a product of their era, and, the singer, had a lot of stuff he was going through, so it made sense that he expressed his feelings in that manner, and I thought it was raw as fuck and was really good. No, what brought me onto the topic of cringe was that, as a somehow natural evolution to going back and listening to Linkin Park, I went back and listened to Disturbed, alright? And specifically, I listened to the Indestructible album, because that is the album that a girl who I was seeing on and off throughout my teenage years lent me, the Indestructible album, and I had it for ages because she didn't ask for it back, and I think we both forgot I had it a lot of the time. So I put it on my iPod, because back in those days, kids, we had an iPod Shuffle or an iPod Nano. Yes, this was before Spotify and YouTube Music and smartphones, but I listened to that album a lot, especially when I was working as a leaflet dropper, because I'd just be walking around a town putting leaflets through doors, so that gets kind of boring. You want to listen to some music while you do it. And that has now evolved into a situation where nowadays I love walking to places and listening to music. But once again, off topic, let's bring it back. Disturbed is cringe. It is, right? And it's hard because there was a big blow up of emo culture back in late 2000s, early 2010s, okay? And Disturbed were right near the center of that. It would later be also held up by bands such as Avenged Sevenfold. Linkin Park were a big part of this, MCR, and you can go into more obscure but still relatively well-known bands like Pierce the Veil, Black Veil Brides. There's a lot going on there. I didn't listen to a lot of those other ones, but I was definitely there for Linkin Park. I was definitely there for Disturbed. I listened to a lot of Avenged Sevenfold back then. Can't bring myself to do it now. I just can't. But Disturbed is genuinely, it is cringy. It is. Especially the Indestructible album. But First of all, I really like the Indestructible album. It's a very good album. But it made me think that, like, the phenomenon of cringe wasn't really a thing back then. Or at the very least, we didn't see it in the way that we do today. Normal people, I'm sure, looked at all the emos listening to Disturbed and Linkin Park and shit, and probably thought to themselves, in the verbal equivalent of the time, that's cringe as fuck. Right, because we were all dyeing our hair black and wearing black clothes. I guess I still do that, although my hair isn't black. And, you know, acting like this was the coolest shit ever. And to be honest, Disturbed, the Indestructible album specifically, the reason it's cringe and remains cringe is because even after all these years, it still holds the scent of the neckbeard, right? It just does. There's nothing you can do about it. If you listen to Disturbed, that doesn't make you a neckbeard, because unfortunately, that would make me one, and I'm not. I'm many negative things, but I'm not a neckbeard. Now everyone's gonna be like, yeah, Foreman's a neckbeard. If he's denying it that vehemently, how's that? If he's denying it that fervently, we'll use that word instead, he must be a neckbeard. But, it's just an album, especially Indestructible, that always made me think, if you saw an album case, CD case, for Indestructible in someone's room, your eyes would not have to travel far to find a fedora. It's just, I feel like I'm not entirely being unfair in that assessment. Is it mean? Kinda. I don't mean it as harshly as it sounds, but it is kind of the thing behind Disturbed. Like, and that's not the band's fault either. The band were just putting out music they thought was cool, and I respect the hell out of that. Of course I do. I'm doing that now, for those of you who don't know. I'm in a band. I'm in a goth band. We're preparing for a gig in October. I'm terrified. I don't play instruments. I've had to learn bass really quickly. But I'm in a goth band, and many people would look at goth and go, that's cringe as fuck, right? And in some cases, they might not be wrong. But that's a difficult thing about cringe as well, is because cringe is decided by two things. A, it is very much decided by the beholder. It is very much decided by the beholder, right? A person will look at something and say, that's cringe. So the first factor is that it's decided by an individual looking at something and making an announcement. The second factor here is what the people around them think. Cringe is very much established by mob rule. It just is. Like, right or wrong, it's been used for good and evil over the years on the internet. Elon Musk is cringe, that's using cringe for good. I'd say picking on billionaires is really just using cringe for good, but I'm getting off topic. But cringe is established by mob rule. First, one person says, that's cringe. Does everyone else agree with them? If so, then by the democracy, the anarchic democracy of the internet, it becomes cringe. If they do not, then it becomes an argument. So, you know, it's the internet. But I guess the part that fascinated me the most was, like I said, back in the 2010s, 2012s, it just wasn't really a thing. Cringe was not a thing. Or at least obviously it was in some form, but it just wasn't so cemented in the modern online lexicon as it is now in the group consciousness of the internet. And, like, I don't even know where cringe came from. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm an old guy by most of you people's standards. I'm 29, I'm not that old, but people act like I'm old. And I mainly keep to myself, and I don't engage in forums and stuff very often, or chat rooms, or maybe I should branch out my experiences a bit more, but I'm just not particularly big on seeking out conversation a lot of the time. And I don't like meeting new people. I'm really antisocial, okay? It's not because I don't like people. It's because I find the experience of talking to new people exhausting and can only do it every now and then. I went to a party recently. It was my mate Will's 29th? I think he's 29 now. 29th birthday party. And I met a bunch of new people there. Now, some of them I don't think I exchanged more than 3 words with, and that's not due to any kind of, like, disdain for them, or I don't think they had any disdain for me, although I did go dressed goth, so maybe they had a little bit of apprehension in speaking to me, just like, that guy looks fucking weird. But some of them I didn't exchange more than 3 words to. Others, like 2 to 3 other people there, I sat in the garden with them, because it was kind of a garden party. I sat in the garden with them until 4 a.m, drinking heavily and talking about music and, like, everything. Those guys were great. I loved meeting them. Fantastic people. It was mostly a couple, this dude and this girl, and they were both brilliant. I loved both of them. Fantastic people. And that's like my fresh new people socialization for the month, right? I can't do any more than that now. That has tapped me out. That was all I've got. So that's a fair summary of my antisocial tendencies, but I don't actually know how I got on this fucking topic. I don't know how I went on this tangent. How did I get here? The end. My point is that, or what I was trying to say, was that back in the day, cringe wasn't really a thing, and it's only really become a thing nowadays. I don't know when it came about. I can't pinpoint when cringe started to become a commonly used term. But I think cringe has a light side and a dark side, a good side and a bad side, as it were. It's good, I think it's good in dealing with people who are way up themselves. So, like I said earlier, picking on billionaires, cringe is great for that, because you can turn to them and go, you're not cool just because you have a lot of money. In fact, that's kind of not helping your case at all. Kind of doing the opposite. But my point is, you are not immune to criticism just because you are quote-unquote a big shot, and cringe helps to cement that, because there are a few things more painful than actually being considered cringe. It kind of hurts. It's got some of that social rejection pain involved, which apparently psychologically is one of the most painful psychological experiences that a human being can go through. So cringe is powerful, and this is where I get to it being used in a not so great way. I remember someone it was something really minor. Someone was like, oh, here's a picture of my Roblox avatar. I don't give a flying fuck about Roblox. I really don't. I've never touched it and I have no interest in it, but other people enjoy it, so whatever. That's you. You know, you enjoy it? Cool. It's nothing to do with me. I'm not gonna jump forward and excitedly talk to you about Roblox because I don't give a flying fuck about it, but I'm not gonna tell you to stop talking about it either. It's your thing. That's cool. But someone posted like a Roblox avatar, and I remember I glanced over, I was like, oh, that's nice. You know, like not really took any of this into account because I don't care. It's got nothing to do with me. But someone was like, don't post that ever again. And they were like, why? And they're like, because it's cringe. And I'm like, that's unnecessary. That's fucking unnecessary. Right? And that's cringe being used for evil. Now, if we were to assess that situation honestly and pragmatically and be like, was that cringe? Right? I'm not going to give you an answer because the answer is irrelevant. Sometimes it's just not called for. Sometimes it's unnecessary. If a 10-year-old puts up a video of them singing their favorite song, is it cringe? Yeah, it's really cringe unless they are like a hidden talent and a prodigy and like just unbelievably, unfathomably, naturally talented. That video, that song, that performance is going to be cringe. It is. But do you say it? Well, you might, but I won't. That's not necessary. That's a mean thing to do. Like, I don't know, and I feel like people are so desperate for, like, the chance to get one up on other people on the internet, or to feel smarmy, or feel funny, or feel cool, be like, it's cringe, fucking got them. And it's like, you are such a dickhead, mate. And that is one of the biggest downsides to cringe being a thing nowadays. And I also feel, for better or worse, you could perhaps move this more towards the neutral middle ground here. But I feel like the advent of cringe as like a generalized term has contributed to a much higher level of self-consciousness amongst people on the internet. People are less willing to get hype about things and to really get excited about things and to share stuff they do and stuff they make out of fear of it being considered cringe. Now, in some cases, I think this helps prevent people from posting or saying things that they would later be incredibly embarrassed about and wish they hadn't put up at all. Right? Like, the threat of, like, maybe this is actually not a smart thing to put up online, and then a week later you go, oh wow, that really was not a smart thing to put up, okay, I'm glad I didn't do that. So, in that way it can be beneficial, but on the downside is it really feels like a socially constructed way to limit people's creativity and their freedom to express themselves, and we're on the fucking internet, man. Like, do what you want, as long as you're not hurting anyone. Like, if someone has drawn a terrible picture of Sonic the Hedgehog, let them be proud of it. Is it cringe? Yes, it is. But let them have it. Just let them have it. Be like, oh, cool, nice picture, man. That's it. That's all you have to do. That's the end of it. You don't have to do anything more. There's no extrapolation required. You don't have to commission them just because you've said their picture is nice, right? Just Just let them have it. Just let them be. If they start getting a fucking massive head on them and start acting like their shit is the best thing ever, might be time to roll out the cringe label then. But the cringe would actually come from the fact that they're getting a massive head over what they're doing. If I started acting like I was Mr. Big Bollocks because I have a YouTube channel with 4,000 people following it, which is like a 0% of the world's population, so it's fucking nothing. And don't get me wrong, I love everyone who follows this channel. I'm just saying, I'm not, even if I, whatever, I'm trying to fucking justify myself too much here. Point is, if at any point during my YouTube career I started thinking I was Johnny Big Bollocks, that would be cringe, right? For me, working really hard to get to the point where I could become someone with a large following is not cringe. The cringe would be decided when I get there. Right? How do I act? How do I treat it? What am I like when I get there? It's very difficult to quantify, and I don't think anyone ever really thinks about the term before they use it. I know I haven't. I don't really use the term that often because it feels too harsh. I know I have used it. I'm sure I have. I'm not so, like, blind to my own actions that I think I have never used the terms on another person. I probably have, and that probably wasn't good. I've never claimed to be perfect. But I've always considered cringe, for the reasons I described earlier about the social rejection form of psychological pain, I just consider it to be a bit too harsh. I know I'm a bit of a soft case. I know. You don't have to tell me. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just explaining why I don't fucking use it, okay? No big deal. But, I think it does kind of inhibit people's ability to express themselves in general. Like, I have a really stupid intro video for my Mech Locker series, right? And I used some unnecessarily hype music for it because I was really excited about the concept, and I love mechs. I think mechs are super fucking cool. So I was really excited to do a video series about mechs. And the whole time I was making the intro video, and like, I spent more time on the first Mech Locker video making the fucking intro than I did actually editing the video itself, because I was trying so hard to get it right, or at least right by my own standards. And one of the biggest things that stopped me, or at least slowed me down, or at least caused me to stop and think was, is this cringe? Or perhaps a more suitable question is, how cringe is this? Because a little bit of cringe can be forgiven, like, generally. Like, people won't get on your case too bad if it's just a little bit cringe. But if it's wide, overbearing, undeniable cringe that swallows entire cities in its tidal wave of secondhand embarrassment, someone's going to say something. So that causes you to stop and think. And like I said before, this is both a good thing and a bad thing. My concern that it would be regarded as too cringy is possibly what caused me to stop, change some things, and perhaps make it better. You know, perhaps make a better intro video than I was going to before if I hadn't stopped due to a fear of cringe. But, by the same token, the fear of cringe almost stopped me from making that at all. It almost made me just go, you know what, this is just a bad idea. Like, no, this is not gonna, it will not be well received. I'm gonna get embarrassed. I fucking hate being embarrassed. Who doesn't? Maybe I should just not bother. But I think generally just the term cringe is thrown around too much now in jokey formats. Like, you know, I don't know, if I play fucking Fear and Hunger and I'm like, the game doesn't let me save whenever I want, that's cringe. That's obviously not, you know, everyone involved can tell that's a joke, and the game is not literally cringe for having a unique save system. I don't personally like the save system, but that's irrelevant here. Point is, I don't think there's anything wrong with using cringe in the jokey saying, where it's like, you know, I know, stub my toe, it's fucking cringe. Fucking cringe toe. Well, I'm not making good jokes here because I can't fucking think of any, but that's cringe in of itself. But my point is, using cringe in a jokey format where it's not actually directed at a person, I think you can do that as much as you want. Fucking go for it, because it's actually kind of funny. But I'm not saying it can't be used on people. I'm saying I think we should be a little more careful with it. I'm not suggesting that the entire internet babysit every single other person on the internet, although I suppose that would make for a nicer setting, but whatever. That's not realistic. It's not that it can never be used. It's not that everyone on the internet needs to be coddled. I don't need to be coddled. It took a lot for me to get to the point during the Ruiner series where I was like, you know what, I've actually had a fucking enough of a lot of you now, so fuck off. Like, we all know what kind of place the internet is, but I don't think knowing what kind of place the internet is a suitable excuse to engage in shitty behavior. Just to be like, oh, well, other people on the internet are shitty, so I can be shitty too. And it's like, that is so weak, man. That's so fucking weak. I've heard a few justifications more pathetic than that one, and yet I hear this one a lot. And I'm like, be your own man/woman, whomever you are. Be your own person. Like, why do other people's actions have to dictate how you conduct yourself? When someone's like, well, other people aren't nice to me, so why should I be nice? Because the point of being nice is to not get other people to be nice to you. The point of being nice is to be nice. It is a self-fulfilling motivation. I'm good, I want to be nice to people because I want to be nice to people. It feels good to be nice to people. I've gone over this topic before, so I'm going to keep that real fucking brief and move it back because this is not about cringe. And the fact that I keep wandering off topic is supremely cringe. Like, overwhelmingly cringe. Like, extraordinarily cringe. Even my dogs are downstairs. They look up at the roof, they hear me talking, and they go, man, that's cringe. But I think cringe, of course, not only affects people's abilities to create things themselves and to express themselves about certain things and ways to conduct themselves in social settings and on the internet and stuff like that. And in some cases it's good that this exists, in some cases that it's bad. But I also feel that cringe affects our ability to enjoy things, like, to a major degree. This is a real severe case of cringe affecting something, right? Because, and like, this was the case back in, you know, the 2010s or whatever, in the 2000s. It's just, we have a more apt word for it now. Now, the word cringe existed back then, it did, it just didn't carry the same connotation, or at least people didn't use it as widespread. I think it still near enough means the same thing, but people didn't use it. No one would say, that's cringe, they would say, that made me cringe. Like, cringe was just the word that it was, it did not become something else until later, is what I'm saying. But yeah, it affects our ability to enjoy certain things. Disturbed, which I mentioned at the top of this video, is an excellent example. Disturbed is cringe. It is, like, I don't know how else to put it. It is. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't enjoy it. I enjoy it. I was listening, like I said, I was listening to Disturbed just let's see, its video's 23 minutes long right now. About half an hour ago, I was listening to Disturbed and enjoying it. Haunted is a really good track. You know, Inside the Fire, The Curse, Perfect Insanity, Criminal, The Night, their cover of The Sound of Silence. They've got a lot of good tracks. Are they cringy? Yes. Yes, they are. Very much so. But does that mean I shouldn't enjoy them? Does that mean you shouldn't enjoy them? No. And it sounds really obvious when you say it out loud like that, but it's surprising to see how subconsciously cringe can affect our ability to enjoy things. Like, I don't think these guys are cringe, but this is an example of how this can affect one's ability to enjoy things. I've been listening to a band called Rise to the North Star, and they're fucking sick. Parisian, like, rap metal band who makes songs based on, like, things from Eastern culture. Mostly Japanese, let's be real. But, like, their album arts have, like, mechs on them and shit. They look fucking dope. Their music fucking goes. It's absolutely sick. And when I first started working with Sweetman, way, like, oh wow, been 2 months ago now or so, Jesus. Yeah, that was back when we were doing That House, fuck. But yeah, when I first went with him to that house, I was like, hey, Sweetman, I've got this track that I really like, but I'm not sure if you'll like it. Like, it goes a bit over the top, I don't know. And he was like, well, put it on, man, let's listen to it. And I put on, Here Comes the Boom, by Rise of the North Star, and me and Sweetman both agreed that that track is like the hypest thing ever. It's so fucking hype, and it goes so fucking hard, and it sounds so fucking good. And neither of us would have had that experience if I had, in my mind, been like, nah, I think this might be cringe, and I probably shouldn't show it to him. Now, I don't think they're cringe at all. I think Rise of the North Star are fucking sick. And I'm like, they go so hard, and they do so good. Sounds fucking dope. Now, I don't know what the people themselves are like, maybe they're assholes. I don't research everything I listen to, and I know you don't either, so don't give me that shit. Point is, you know, that was a cool moment that could have been ruined by the fact that, oh, maybe this was too cringy. A lot of people who watch this channel are Project Moon fans, okay? A lot of you are. I know you are, because you're where because Project Moon's where you lot came from. That's where my fucking audience came from. Do you guys actually understand? And this is not going to be a popular thing I'm about to say, but you're going to have to accept it. Do you understand how cringe a lot of Project Moon is? Do you understand, to an extent, how cringe some of the Millie tracks are? Some, not all. Right? Settle down. And I'm not saying they're bad either. I like Millie tracks, okay? And I like Project Moon games. But do you understand how cringe those two things actually are? They're pretty fucking cringe. I don't know, for some reason Roland isn't cringe. I don't know how. He should be, but he's not. That guy is too well written and too cool to be cringe. I don't get it. He's not cringe. I don't understand how he isn't, but he's not. LobCorp is pretty cringe in some cases because that game spurred everyone to have all their own overly customized OC nuggets, and that's cringe. But does that mean you shouldn't do it? No. You have so much fun. The Bombing Corporation is a great game for a start, but you guys have so much fun with your fucking ridiculously overly elaborate nuggets and making art about them and role-playing as them and making stories about them. Is that cringe? Yes. Should you stop? No. No, you shouldn't. No, you should keep going. There is a roleplay. There's 2 roleplay channels in my Discord server. I forgot. There's 2 there. I don't engage with them because I'm not really a roleplay guy. I could do it, but I don't know. I honestly think that's a bit too. That's kind of due to like childhood, growing into teenagehood, and then eventually being treated in adulthood cases of like personal suppression, where I'm like, I don't feel comfortable expressing myself in certain ways in certain cases. So that's probably why I'm not involved with that. But they can fucking go for it. As long as they're not being mean to each other and they're not being shitty to each other, they can do that all fucking day. And I wish them the best. Is it cringe? Probably. But they can do it. I hope they enjoy themselves. I hope they are enjoying themselves. I hope it's a good time. I genuinely do. I think, some things are cringe, and sometimes we need to step forward, look at something and go, man, that's fucking cringe. But I think sometimes you need to look at something, right? Really look at it and you go, yeah. In your head, you go, yep. Without a doubt, this is undeniably cringe, all right? And you need to look at that thing, you need to come to that conclusion, and you need to keep it to yourself. You do. I'm not saying that confrontationally, I'm not saying it adversarially. I don't know if that's a word or not. And I'm not saying it in regards to my own content. If you think I'm cringe, fucking whatever, man. Like, I can't be worrying about that shit. But I'm not talking about me here. I mean, if you see someone who's trying art for the first time, and God bless them, they're just not very good at it yet. And that's the key word, yet. They're not good at it yet. Don't call their picture cringe. Encourage them. Say like, it's a bit rough, but you're off to a good start. Like, keep it going. Or if you're an artist yourself, offer them tips, offer them advice, talk to them, offer constructive criticism. But fucking, like, if someone's first getting into music and they're shit at it, can relate to this one personally, don't call them cringe. They're trying to learn a skill. Are you trying to learn a skill? You know what's pretty cringe? Making fun of someone trying to learn to do something when you're not doing anything. You don't have to learn to do something. Not everyone does not have to learn to play instruments and draw things and make films and make videos or whatever. You can just have hobbies that you enjoy and work normally. That's totally fine. But taking the piss out of people who are trying to learn a skill is fucking cringe. Taking the piss out of people trying to learn a language is fucking cringe. This is the true essence of cringe. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. But you're pretty fucking cringe, aren't you? Sorry. I'm joking. That's a joke. That is a joke. I'm joking there. You can disagree with me, that's fine. No, I'm not expecting to change hearts and minds with this one. It's not even why I made the fucking video. It's just a tangent I happened to fall upon. But I do think, to an extent, cringe is a blade that must be wielded with care. Alright? Because you can do a lot of damage with it. Just like most forms of, I suppose, expression of a negative opinion, as it were. It doesn't mean you're not allowed to have negative opinions. It doesn't mean you're not allowed to express negative opinions. But the method in which you express a negative opinion about something is almost as important as the opinion being expressed. And that must sound weird. It really must to some people, but it's true. And there are easy ways to, there are easy examples, for instance. Like, this, it kind of draws more from the way you express an opinion, thought, or stance, I suppose. The way you express that stance, that thought, that opinion is almost as, if not more important than the expression, stance, opinion that you are presenting. I.e., if my brother came round to play Baldur's Gate with me, because we've started playing Baldur's Gate together actually, it's really fun. He's playing a monk, I'm playing a barbarian. I've spec'd into throwing things, and he's just a really fucking cool monk, so it's been a really good time. But if he came round, right, and we're sat at my desk, and we're playing Baldur's Gate 3, and you know, he's like, oh bruv, I brought a couple cans of Coke over, like, here, have a can of Coke. And I'm like, oh, thanks man. And we crack them open, we have a nice little fizzy drinks while we enjoy the video game. And then he knocks his can over, all over my fucking desk, staining the wood desk. It's all sticky. Oh, it's gross. Oh, it's horrible. Oh, this is a huge catastrophe, right? And he's like, oh shit, sorry man. Now, obviously, there are multiple ways to respond to that, right? The way I see it, the right way would be to be like, oh, no worries, I'm gonna go get some fucking kitchen roll. And then clean it up and then be like, just be a bit more careful in the future, right? And he'll be like, yeah, absolutely, sorry, did not mean to do that at all. That was dumb of me, you know? I know what kind of guy he is. I know he would respond in this manner. So I can actually speak for him in this analogy. It's almost as if I've known him for 29 years. That would be like, that's how you should really do that kind of thing. That's one way to respond to that situation and to express my feelings and opinion and stance on the situation, right? Another way would be to turn around to him, scream in his fucking face, and call him a fucking idiot. And why the fuck did he put his fucking drink on my fucking desk? What a stupid twat he is, right? In essence, in a very broad essence, a similar sort of idea is being presented here. It's like, hey, just be careful in the future, all right, with stuff on my desk. I've obviously gone overboard with the second example, but you can tone that back a bit and still kind of get the same idea here. The way I express the desire for him to be careful with drinks around my desk is as crucial as me actually expressing a desire for him to be careful with drinks around my desk. Better yet, first example where I'm like, just be a bit more careful with your drink, alright? He's like, yeah, sure, sorry. Or the second time where I'm like, don't be a fucking moron and put your drinks on my desk, right? Two very different tones expressing a very similar opinion, point, stance, whatever. I'm struggling with my words today. I'm tired. The first way is more likely to work. The second way is more likely for us to not speak for 6 months, you know? Like, but to some people, they'd be like, well, you're saying the same thing either way, really. And it's like, you are, but you're not. The way you address something is almost as important as what you're addressing and the stance you take. And this may seem like it's not a thing, but do you know how many people of questionable morals and ethics have gotten into positions of power because they conducted themselves in a reasonable, calm, and friendly manner? More than you'd think. Maybe not tons, but more than you'd think. It does work. And it's worrying in that respect because you can kind of fake it till you make it in terms of being a decent human being, which is fucked. But it is a thing. It's a real thing. My brother, bless his heart, struggled with this concept for years, right? He and I, as kids, would fight about something, right? And I would be in the wrong, you know, and he would find out that I did something wrong, or that I was a dick to him, or that just I did something wrong. And he would go overboard and start screaming and shouting and trying to beat me up and stuff. And mum and dad would come in on my side because he's screaming and shouting and trying to beat me up. And they'd be like, and he'd be like, but Adam did this thing. And they'd be like, yeah, and that's wrong. But you're flying way off the handle here. Like, this is not an appropriate response for what's been done, you know? Pubs or bars in general, you know, alcoholic establishments are great examples of this, where you'll see someone accidentally spill a drink and the owner of said drink will turn around and fucking deck them. That is a disproportionate response to a relatively minor offense. But it's, you know, it's different in pubs because everyone's drunk and it's loud and it's usually quite warm because there's a lot of people, so tensions tend to flare up pretty quickly. But we have wandered far off the topic of cringe. Oh, we've wandered so far off the topic of cringe. Oh, I'm so cringe. No. I didn't think my career would end like this. I guess I may as well round it off there, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm going off topic hard in multiple ways now, and I keep talking about shit that is not relevant to the base topic, which I'm sure you guys are all used to if you do watch the Foreman Talks, but nevertheless, I should attempt to rein myself in. This is why I should try and find someone to come on with me for this, because it might be easier to bounce this off someone and then have them sort of bring me back on the rails. Or if I brought, say, my brother or Sweetman on here, you know what would happen? We'd fly even further off the rails. We would go down a tangent and fucking stay there, and the original topic would cease to exist. I know those two. That's exactly what would happen. It's kind of why I would like to, but all three of us are very busy, so I doubt that's going to happen anytime soon. But, off topic once again. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate this one's been pretty all over the place, and it's been difficult to really present my thoughts on it because it's kind of a difficult topic. Not difficult like emotionally, but just difficult to really quantify like what is considered part of this and what isn't. Like I've said, cringe often means something different to each individual person. What do you think? What is your, like, have I said stuff about how cringe is used and you're like, oh god, I've never used it like that, or that's not what I mean when I say it, or I don't fucking say it like that, or that's not even cringe. Like, any of your thoughts on this, what do you think? Let me know. But ladies and gentlemen, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I got more out of this than I thought I would. Special thanks to Ethrobin, Linky, Xeon Cedar, Bimbleward, Tom King, Mishoko Mime, Adash Sanjeev, Alkia, Honeydew Corporation, Sweet Baby Red, MB Elias, Lord Skellington, Jessicissy, Plutonium Pie, Dreamer Ghost, Leper Lullaby, K-Bub, Magic Owl, The Frostbite, Monsoon, Sworld, Warmaster Oku, SCP-106A, Namad, and Kenny T800 for supporting me on Patreon. Thank you so much, guys, and thank you all so much for watching. So let me know what you think. Am I cringe? Let's get it out there now. Let's get this question squared away now. Am I cringe? Am I? You can tell me. It's alright, I won't tell anyone. I won't have a massive sulk about it either, I promise. I definitely won't. I definitely will. Don't tell me I'm cringe, I don't want to know. But what do you think of what we've discussed today? Like, any part of it that has really prompted your own thought process, let me know what you think. If you have ideas for any more topics for Foreman Talks, let me know. If you'd rather it be done in Mech Locker or here, then let me know. We'll decide one way or the other. But regardless what we talk about next time, I hope I see you there. Toodles! Goodbye.